amber world, but the whole world. Hey, don't just take my word for it.
The microclimate here has changed a great deal. It has changed because of the following reasons. First of all, trees have been planted. And normally this area would have acacia and grass. But the community here over the last 25 years have planted lots of trees. What this has meant is that there's more precipitation because of the arresting the clouds. There's much more dew now here. And also the birds and the insects and the wind are bringing more seed here. So what is happening here is that over the last 25 years, this climatic zone has shifted from fairly semi-arid zone 5 geographically to zone 3. Rainwater harvesting and planting trees, if it were to be spread across the board, would achieve a great deal in contributing to the reversal of global warming.
So, because planting trees is the way forward, excellent development encouraged communities to plant vast quantities of indigenous and exotic trees. They even set up demonstration plots and forests to show exactly what can be grown, in addition to the old faithful variety.
We did this with the community purposely to train them to use combination of trees, and not only to use one species of trees. In here we have local trees, we have exotic trees, we have medicinal trees, thinking in the future that we will have trees grown here, which can produce seed for other communities and for this community also to plant.
On the downside, some trees are used extensively for carving for tourist and export markets, endangering varieties like Albervia, also known as African ebony. Trees are also used extensively by locals for traditional medicines. An example is Prunus africana, which locals discovered had an amazing ability to cure prostate problems. Unfortunately, though, news travels fast. As a result, it's now an endangered and internationally protected tree.
So this is the Matiku project. As you can see, it's a very busy place. In the far distance, you can see the first dam that was built, which was about 6 months ago. That's still filling up with sand, and already they are nearly completing this particular dam. It's a smaller one, and it services this nursery, a tree nursery that they've planted. Now, of course, all of this helps in the long term for water conservation. The dams will help the tree nursery. The tree nursery, when the trees grow, will of course help the soil conservation and all the terracing around them as well. It all adds up to a much more successful, happy and better community.
Joshua, who is the founder of this movement here, comes from this area. Traditionally, the community here recognized the importance of cooperation rather than competition. And the whole philosophy of Utooni and Excellent is working together rather than competing. If we have common needs, if we have common problems, the best way to solve them is not to compete, but to work together. This is the whole philosophy of Utooni and Excellent development.
And as Professor Mugambi said, you won't find a more successful community than Tony. They've been working together for 28 years and provide an income.
Is there anything special about Kola markets compared to the others?
Yeah, when you look at the prices, they are fair. So at least it's a market that you can say it's for the common man. So one can be able to afford whichever you like from the market.
And all of the farmers that we've seen as we've gone around the community self-help projects and everything, do they all come here?
Most of them come in to sell what they have from their farms, especially those who are able to get surplus from their farms.
And if they come to sell the surplus that they have, what does that money go towards?
That money may go to the paying of school fees, may go to buying whatever is not available at all. Maybe they may buy implements, which can be used back in the farm, or they can also buy plants.
We will sell 20 shillings. Is that right? For 4? Lovely. Tell her to give me 4 nice ones. Can you ask her if she can remit herself? Yours! Yeah? So we've got the peppers and we've got the coriander, so we need the papaya and the chili. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry.
Kola market. 25 years ago, it was an open market and they had anything to sell. Every Friday, like today, there's a great deal of produce that is coming from here, and this community has learned to produce what they consume and to consume what they produce. If we are going to eradicate poverty in Africa, then we must encourage African countries to produce what they consume and consume what they produce.
There's a saying that says, better train a child to catch fish than to give him the fish. So, by saying that I mean, the skill that we are getting now from excellent development is more important than the help that we can give. Because you can give us 1 million, and that million will end up, a month, you'll find that there's nothing. Then we will stay, and we start stretching our hands again to borrow. But when our mind is filled with the skill, then we will do for ourselves.
See, the last one is I'm grateful Simon said and thought about essence, because my dreams are coming true. And if I die, I will say, in my grave, write down, trees, and don't trees for us.
Jacob and I are so honored to be working with Joshua. We've been there going on 5 years now. And we are the only Mzungus in his outfit. And we feel very privileged to be there. I'm going to go into a little more detail now on sand dams. I just noticed that this dam that you see here was the one that was in the film. We're going to give a brief introduction to the background of Utoni and Joshua's work. We're going to give a definition of sand dams, talk about where they are appropriate, where do the people get the water and how do they get it from the sand, the benefits to the people, the benefits to the environment, the holistic approach that we have, which is 4-pronged, and then some results from a 5-year MCC, Canadian Food Grains Bank, external evaluation. Joshua and his wife started Utoni Development Project in 1978. He and his wife had just had their first baby, and they found themselves every night at midnight sitting around a campfire about 12 kilometers from their village, waiting in the queue for water. And they started to talk and say, are we going to do this for the rest of our lives? This is absolute foolishness. We've got to find a way to get water. And they organized with 5 other families a little self-help group that they called Utoni Development Project. They started getting small donations. Their first donation was 30 bags of cement from MCC in 1979. And today, MCC provides about 68% of their funding. We have other donors also. As they started getting larger donations, Joshua realized they had to incorporate and become an NGO. The first NGO, the NGO was first named Excellent Development. And they had some help from the UK, Excellent Development UK, to start as an NGO. They just changed the name of the NGO last year to Utoni Development Organization to better reflect their indigenous roots. MCC has evaluated the this project very, very carefully from day one. And it has just completed a 5-year evaluation that was externally evaluated by the Canadian Food Grains Bank. And MCC is expanding their funding of sand dams. They've got a major project in Mozambique with about 30 sand dams. They're working in Tanzania. In many cases, teams come up, for instance, from Mozambique to look at what Joshua is doing, to work on a few sand dams, and then to take back the technology. Joshua is not really interested in expanding his own organization. He wants to help other NGOs to get started and do it on their own. What's a sand dam? Simply, a sand dam is a concrete weir or wall that is built on a sandy riverbed in a seasonal river. It is built on rock bed, and we can go into a little sermon there on the importance of rock foundations. At first, it's built only 1 meter high. It's usually about 5 feet base, 3 feet on the top. Joshua purposely builds those sand dams more than standard requirements, because in almost all cases, the community, once sand is behind that wall, will want to expand that sand storage tank. So they want to build the wall higher in a few years. These weirs, 1 meter high, catch the very fast, erratic, seasonal rainfalls that come just a very few times a year in these semi-arid areas. Then the water rushes down the river carrying sand and silt. The sand is heavy, it's on the bottom, the silt is light, and on the top, the water hits the dam wall. The silt and extra water go over the weir, the sand goes to the bottom. The water collected under the sand creates an aquifer, or if there's already a natural aquifer there, it will replenish that. In a good sand storage tank behind this weir, good coarse sand, about 40% will be water and 60% sand. The beauty of this for a semi-arid area that has very, very hot sunshine is that because the water is stored under the sand, there is about 6 inches under the sand, under the surface of the sand, of the top, except no evaporation. These sand dams can be quite small, maybe 2 or 3 meters wide. It's actually an arid area. You can see the bare beds right there. Or they can be quite large. In flat areas, they might be up to 90 meters long. If the sand dam has not yet filled with sand, there will be a light sheen of water on the top. Where are these sand dams appropriate? First of all, in semi-arid and arid areas that have very short seasonal rainfalls, usually very heavy downpours, maybe flash floods. So the water falls and goes quickly in our area to the Indian Ocean. So the seasonal rivers with high-quality sand are the best places for them. It's very important to put a rock foundation there. Other people, other NGOs have tried to substitute a good firm rock foundation. Our experience is when we observe them, they wash away in just a very few seasons. The most appropriate for very remote rural areas where there is no infrastructure for water, there are no pipelines. It is very highly unlikely that the government will come in for many years to put in pipelines, and the people are expected themselves to provide their own water. And also, it's very important that these structures be owned by a community who can